The alarm clock rang at 5 a.m., but Alex did not move. He stared at the ceiling, eyes open, mind empty. He had promised himself he would start his new life today. Wake up early, exercise, work hard, become better. But here he was, lying still, just like yesterday, just like every other day. The sound of rain outside filled the room. A cold breeze slipped through the half-open window. The air smelled of wet earth and quiet regret. He finally sat up, rubbing his eyes. The mirror across the room caught his reflection. Dark circles, messy hair, a tired face staring back. He whispered to himself, "Is this the best version of me?" His voice trembled. Even he did not believe his own words. He walked to the window, watching people outside. A man jogged past with energy. A woman carried books, smiling under her umbrella. A child laughed, jumping in puddles. Life was moving, but Alex felt stuck. Suddenly, his phone buzzed. A message popped up from an unknown number. It read, "Meet me at the old library at 6 a.m. I know how to help you." He frowned. No name, no context. He thought it was a prank. But something about it, the timing, the tone, felt different. He hesitated for a moment, then grabbed his jacket and stepped outside. The rain had slowed to a drizzle. The sky was pale blue with streaks of gray. Every step he took splashed softly against the wet pavement. By the time he reached the library, the city was just waking up. The old building stood quiet and tall, its windows fogged, its doors slightly open. He pushed the door gently. It creaked. Inside, the smell of old paper and dust filled the air. Dim light streamed to the glass ceiling, casting golden shadows across the floor. "Hello," he called out. No answer, only the distant ticking of a clock. He took a few steps forward, scanning the rows of books. Then he saw something. At the center table, a single open notebook. Its pages fluttered slightly in the breeze. He approached slowly, heart beating faster. On the first page, in bold handwriting, it said, "Welcome, Alex. I have been waiting for you." His chest tightened. "How does someone know my name?" he whispered. The next line said, "You do not need to be better than others. You need to be better than who you were yesterday." He froze. He had heard those words before, years ago, from his late father, but no one else knew that. The air felt colder now, the silence deeper. He touched the page gently. It was real. He turned to the next one. It said, "To become your best version, you must face your worst one first." At that exact moment, the lights flickered. A whisper echoed faintly through the library. "Are you ready, Alex?" He turned sharply, but there was no one there. Only the echo of his own heartbeat filling the room. He took a deep breath. His hands trembled slightly as he picked up the notebook. The pages were filled with strange tasks, challenges, and questions, each one designed to test his strength, his truth, and his will. He knew this was no ordinary message. Someone or something wanted him to change. And whether it was fate, memory, or mystery, Alex decided to follow it. He turned the page to the first challenge. It read, "Write down everything you fear. Then, do one thing that scares you today." He looked around. Still alone, but somehow not completely. He pulled a pen from his pocket, sat down, and began to write. The ink bled slightly onto the page, his handwriting shaky at first. "Failure," he wrote. "Rejection. Disappointment. Myself." As he finished, he heard footsteps behind him. Slow, steady, approaching. He froze. The sound echoed through the hall. He turned around. The footsteps grew louder, one step at a time. Calm, measured, unhurried. Alex's pulse quickened. His hands clenched the notebook tightly. The sound echoed against the tall walls, bouncing between the shelves of forgotten stories. Then, from behind a row of books, a shadow appeared. A tall figure, coat dripping from the rain, stepped into the dim light. The man's face was half hidden under a hood. Alex swallowed hard. "Who are you?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. The stranger stopped a few feet away and smiled faintly. "Someone who once stood exactly where you're standing now." Alex frowned. "I do not understand." The man pointed to the notebook. You came here because you are tired of yourself, are you not? Tired of waiting for change. Tired of watching others move forward while you stay still. Alex's throat tightened. Yes, he whispered. The man's eyes softened. Then this book is your path. Each page is a door, and every door leads to a part of yourself you have been running from. Alex looked down at the notebook again. The ink on the first challenge had darkened, as if alive. The words seemed to pulse faintly under the yellow light. He looked up. What happens if I fail these challenges? The man tilted his head slightly. Then you will stay exactly as you are. The silence stretched between them. Alex felt something shift inside him, a mix of fear and determination. He nodded slowly. Then I am ready. The man smiled. Good. Then begin today. He pointed to a large wooden door at the far end of the library. Its surface was carved with strange symbols. A faint glow leaked through the cracks. Your first test waits behind that door, the man said. Once you open it, there's no turning back. Alex walked toward it, the sound of his shoes echoing on the marble floor. Every step felt heavier, like the air itself was pressing down on him. He reached for the handle, cold metal under his palm. The moment he touched it, he heard the man's voice again. Remember, Alex, the person you fear most lives inside you. He opened the door. A blinding light flooded the room. The sound of his own heartbeat drowned everything else. For a second, he saw flashes, his past failures, his broken promises, the people he disappointed. Then the light dimmed. He was standing in a completely different place. A small classroom, empty desks, a blackboard covered with chalk marks, and at the center, a younger version of himself, sitting with his head down. Alex stared, frozen. The boy looked up, eyes filled with the same doubt, the same pain he had carried for years. It was him. It was a version of himself he had always tried to forget. The boy spoke softly. Why did you give up on me? Alex's throat went dry. He took a step closer. I did not give up, he said. I just lost faith. The boy's voice sharpened. No, you stopped believing that I could ever be better. Each word hit like a knife. Alex wanted to look away, but he could not. It was like staring into a mirror that showed not your face, but your failures. Tears welled in his eyes. He whispered, I am sorry. The boy stood up slowly and walked toward him. Then he handed Alex a single piece of paper. On it were 3 words written in trembling handwriting. Forgive yourself first. As Alex read the words, the room began to shake. The blackboard cracked. The desks vanished one by one. And the boy, his younger self, smiled faintly before fading into light. When Alex opened his eyes again, he was back in the library. The notebook was glowing faintly. The next page had turned on its own. It read, Lesson 1. You cannot become your best version if you still hate the person you once were. Alex exhaled deeply, his heart pounding. He finally understood the first step. Becoming better was not about perfection. It was about forgiveness. He looked around for the mysterious man, but the library was empty. Only his own reflection stared back from the dusty window. Then, the notebook flipped another page by itself. New words appeared. Challenge 2. Confront the fear that still controls your choices. Alex's fingers tightened around the cover. He took a deep breath. He knew this journey was only beginning. The air around him felt alive, humming softly, and somewhere, faintly, he heard that voice again. Keep going, Alex. You are closer than you think. Alex stood in silence. The echo of the mysterious voice faded into the still air. Only the sound of his breathing filled the library now. He looked down at the new words glowing on the page. Confront the fear that still controls your choices. His fingers traced the sentence slowly. Each word felt heavy, like a secret truth pressing against his chest. He closed the notebook and looked toward the far end of the hall. There, another door had appeared. It was smaller than the first, painted black, its surface rippling faintly like the surface of dark water. Alex hesitated. The air around it was colder, sharper. His instincts whispered for him to turn back. But something deeper, something stronger, pulled him forward. He placed his hand on the handle. The metal was freezing. He took one deep breath and pushed it open. The light vanished. Everything went black. A low hum filled his ears, like the distant sound of wind, mixed with faint whispers. He blinked, tried to adjust his eyes. Slowly, the darkness shifted into shape. He was standing on a high bridge, suspended over nothing. Below him, there was no ground, only mist. A cold wind whipped through his hair. The wooden boards creaked beneath his feet. And then he heard it, a voice, trembling, echoing from the shadows ahead. "You failed me, Alex." He froze. That voice! It was familiar. He looked up. Out of the fog stepped another figure. It was his old self again, but older this time, weary, broken, defeated. The version of him who had stopped chasing dreams. The one who gave up before he even tried. Alex's mouth went dry. "What do you want from me?" The older version smiled bitterly. "What I want to remind you of what fear cost you. Remember the job you did not take because you thought you were not good enough? The people you avoided because you feared rejection? The ideas you buried because you feared failure?" Each word hit Alex like thunder. He stepped back slightly, the bridge creaking under his weight. The older version stepped closer. "You talk about becoming the best version of yourself," he hissed, "but you still live like a prisoner of your own fear." Alex clenched his fists. The words hurt, but they were true. His voice cracked as he spoke. "Yes, I was afraid. Afraid to fail. Afraid to start. Afraid to lose. But I am not that person anymore." The older version laughed softly. "Then prove it." Before Alex could respond, the wooden planks beneath his feet began to shatter. The bridge was collapsing. Wind roared. Splinters flew past him. The other version of himself began to fade into smoke. Alex ran forward, leaping across the breaking boards, heart pounding. The mist below swirled violently, pulling at his feet. He reached the final plank and jumped. For a split second, everything stopped. The wind, the sound, even his heartbeat. Then he landed on solid ground. The moment his feet touched the surface, the noise vanished. Silence returned. He looked around. The fog had cleared. He was standing in front of a mirror, tall, cracked, covered with dust. But the reflection staring back was not his old self. It was him now, breathing heavily, trembling, but standing tall. He stepped closer. The mirror shimmered and revealed a single line etched across the glass. "Fear exists to test your strength, not control it." The glass pulsed once with a golden light, and then shattered into 1,000 pieces. Alex fell to his knees, overwhelmed. Tears streamed down his face, not from pain, but from release. For the first time in years, he felt free. When he looked up again, he was back in the library. The notebook lay open in front of him. The next page had already turned. It read, "Lesson 2. You become unstoppable when you stop letting fear make your decisions." Alex smiled faintly. He felt lighter. The library around him glowed with a warm light, like the sun breaking through clouds after a storm. But before he could take a breath, the pages turned again. The next challenge appeared, darker, longer, heavier. It said, "Challenge 3. Face the truth you keep hiding from yourself." The words glowed brighter, as if daring him to continue. Alex closed his eyes, his heartbeat slowing. He whispered, "I am ready." The lights dimmed once more. The floor beneath him shifted, and a new door began to form, carved with his own name. This time he knew what waited on the other side would not just test him, it would change him forever. The door bearing his name stood before him, silent, still, and somehow alive. It pulsed faintly with light, like a heartbeat echoing through the air. Alex stared at it for a long moment. His reflection shimmered on its dark surface, twisted by the glow that leaked from the cracks. The words from a notebook repeated in his mind. "Challenge 3. Face the truth you keep hiding from yourself." His palms were damp, his throat dry. This time, the fear was not from what he might see, but from what he already knew. He reached out and pushed the door open. It did not creak this time. It breathed open, like it had been waiting only for him. He stepped inside, and suddenly, He was standing in his old apartment. The same cracked walls. The same faint smell of stale coffee and burnt toast. The same broken lamp flickering weakly in the corner. Everything was exactly as it had been years ago. The night he gave up on his dreams. Rain tapped gently against the window. On the table lay his laptop, still glowing faintly. An unfinished email was open on the screen. He walked closer, his chest tightening. It was a job application, the one he never sent. He could still remember that night, clearly, the opportunity that could have changed everything. But instead of pressing send, he had closed the laptop and walked away. He had told himself he was not ready, that he was not good enough. And that single decision had shaped the years that followed. The room grew darker as he stared at the screen. Then, a soft voice spoke behind him. "You remember now, do you not?" Alex turned. It was the mysterious man again, the same one from the library. But this time his face was clearer. And Alex's shock, it was his own face. Older, wiser, but scarred. The man smiled faintly. "You locked yourself in this moment for years. Every failure, every regret, it all leads back here." Alex's voice broke. "I was afraid of rejection, afraid of not being enough." His older self nodded slowly. "And so you punished yourself for years, didn't you?" Alex lowered his head. Tears welled in his eyes. "Yes, I did." The older version stepped closer. "Then forgive yourself, Alex. The best version of you cannot be built on the ruins of self-hatred." The lights flickered. The walls began to crack. The air shimmered, bending around them. "Say it," the older self said gently. "Say the truth you have been hiding." Alex took a deep breath. Trembling, he closed his eyes and whispered, "I am not a failure. I was scared, but I am still here." The moment the words left his lips, the room shattered into light. The rain, the desk, the laptop, all dissolved like smoke in sunlight. He fell to his knees, surrounded by a bright, endless white. The older version of himself knelt beside him. He smiled softly and said, "Now you understand. The best version of yourself is not someone new. It is the person who finally accepts who they are." Alex looked up. "Then what now?" His older self extended a hand. "Now you live." He placed a notebook in Alex's hands. And as he did, his figure began to fade, like mist caught in dawn light. Alex reached out, but was too late. The man's voice echoed softly as he vanished. "You have learned the final lesson. Truth, forgiveness, courage. The rest is your story to write." Alex blinked. He was back in the library again, standing before the same desk, the same glowing notebook. But this time the final page was blank. Only a single sentence appeared slowly, like ink writing itself. Lesson 3. The best version of you begins the moment you forgive the one you once were. He smiled through his tears. The golden morning light streamed through the windows. Outside, the city was waking again, alive, bright, full of sound. He closed the notebook gently, whispering, "Thank you." And as he walked out of the library, the door slowly shut behind him with a quiet hum, like a chapter closing, and a new one waiting to begin. Soft piano music begins to play. A golden sunrise fills the frame. Alex walks through the quiet streets. No fear, no hesitation, only calm. The narrator's voice fades and gently. Sometimes we keep waiting for the perfect moment to begin. But the truth is, life does not wait. It moves. It changes. And so must we. Alex finally learned what most people spend a lifetime searching for. To become your best version, you do not have to be perfect. You only have to begin. Forgive yourself. Face your fears. Tell the truth, even if it scares you, because the person you are becoming is built from every mistake, every lesson, and every moment you refuse to give up. He looked at the sunrise and smiled. His journey was not over. It was just beginning. And maybe so is yours. Do not wait for a better version of your life to appear. Start building it today. If this story touched your heart, like, subscribe, and share this video to remind someone. The best version of you is already inside, waiting to be awakened.